Yeah, baby. You know what time it is, people. YouTubers, welcome to another very, very special edition, non-pornographic, of trends in the housing market. Daddy. And yes, my son is here.
Hi, Daddy.
Yeah, my baby's here with me. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for joining me in this very, very important edition of Trends in the Housing Market, and it is I, Mike Martins. And it's very crucial that I get with you guys this week, and it's very important that we discuss what's happening in the housing market. I know. My son is trying to show me something. My son should be upstairs with my wife, but unfortunately fortunately he's here. And, yeah, baby? Come over here and sit with Daddy. Yeah. So I got... Antonio's growing up fast here. And I am broadcasting out of Merritt, BC. It is I, your humble servant, Mike Martins, for a very important and very eventful trends in the housing market. And yes... Yeah. Anyways, today's date, let's get with today's date, is July 27th, depending where you're watching this. I welcome everyone that's watching this. And I also want to thank the people listening to this on replay at work, on the site, at the mill, wherever you're listening to this transmission. It really means a lot to me. I want to thank everyone for joining me and stuff. And also, I would like to thank... who was it? Yes, Australia. Okay, Australia. This is really good. Okay, in Australia, what's been happening is they've been clipping a lot of my shows, like clipping and cutting, and some of the talking I do, and they're actually rebroadcasting it in different segments of different parts of news, or discussing, or my points of views, or what I think was happening, and blah blah blah. And one clip that really got out to people was the one about how. What I was talking about, how Melbourne and Sydney will become cities for for a playground for the rich and famous. Well, not famous, just the rich, right? And they were clipping that, cutting and pasting, and did a little bit of work on it, cleaned it up a bit to show people what it is, what exactly I was talking about, and basically making sense of it. You know what I'm saying? And then I have other people asking for me to talk more about what's happening in Seattle, because Seattle is a big, big, big problem. I do talk about it every single week in Trends in the Housing Market. I do talk about Seattle a lot. So it is a big problem right now in Seattle, and it's out of control. But let's continue here. I would like to thank Watson Estates, who mentions me in some of his videos and does shout-outs and plugs. It's a really good channel. Basically, he's the opposite side of the spectrum of I am, and it's really good to see a nice, refreshing look on that. And he's got videos here which are really good about how to make money in real estate, because when someone's losing money, someone's making money. That's always the rule of thumb. When you owe $1,000, somebody has $1,000 somewhere. So that's basically how it works, and he basically goes into different ends of the market, angles of the market, that basically gets you thinking outside the box. But I invite everyone to go to Watson Estates, and I'm going to put my son down here.
Give me a pen.
Yeah?
Give me a pen.
Okay, I'm going to give him a pen. See, that's what happens when you have a family, guys. And, okay, here we go. We're zooming back in now. So, Watson Estates, don't forget to join him on his show and see what he's got cooking there. Really good show. Really, really recommend it. And let's move on. Now, I have to put this up here right now. I don't want to boast or sound like I'm hey, I was right again. I'm not pulling one of those. I swear to God I'm not. But listen to this. New home sales soar in June as condos dominate the market. Condos accounted for 91% of new homes sold in the Toronto area last month. So, I don't know if you guys remember when I was telling you guys here in this video. Yeah, so we're going to skip this one. If you guys remember this video where I was talking about how a lot of people are going to be jumping off the detached market and going into the condo market once the new taxes come into play, just like it happened in Vancouver. And if you look here, I discussed this many times. And if you guys remember what I was talking about the last, 7 shows, I've been talking about how in Toronto, what's going to happen is everyone's going to jump on the cheaper properties. Now, what's happening here? And this is from today's date. New home sales soar in June as condos dominate the market. Condos accounted for 91% of the new homes sold in Toronto last. 91%! I told you guys, I've been saying this, it's on record. It's right here on record. On 4 different trends in the housing market I did, maybe 5 I was talking about how everyone's going to jump on the cheaper markets or the cheaper affordable housing. So let's go here. Really good article. So it's from 2 days ago. New construction home sales, especially condos, are rising as the resale property market continues to slump in Toronto region. The gains of newly built the home market are almost entirely due to apartments and stacked townhouses, which accounted for 91% of 6,046 homes sold in June, according to the last month numbers from the Building Industry Land Development Association built on Tuesday. New condo sales were up 89%. You guys need to take a page from what I'm talking about once in a while. I know I don't know nothing, but I'm telling you guys, this is what was going to happen 4 or 5 weeks ago. Compared to 72% over year drop in the single family homes. A strong condo performance was due in part of large number of new projects that hit the market in May and June, said Patricia Arsenal of the Atlas Group, which tracks new home statistics. You don't need new home statistics. You just tune into trends in the housing market here. And I'll tell you what the heck is going on. I've been talking about the same thing for like 5-6 weeks now. But they're more affordable entry point prices. Merry Christmas! Appeal to many consumers who might have otherwise preferred a ground level home and investors who have noted the escalating price of condos, she said. No, it's not even that. It's investors. It's definitely investors going in to a cheaper market, and they're taking it away from the middle class. Middle class doesn't exist anymore. Middle class is non-existent. It's called working poor. With condo prices continuing to escalate, the market is becoming out of reach for many consumers, warned Build Brian Tuckey in Press Real Estate. The price of new apartments rose $22,000 to $627,000 in June compared to May, a 34% year-over-year increase. The price per square foot considered most accurate gauges to compare condos rose $742 compared to $587 a year ago. The cost of a newly built single-family home, including detached, semi-detached, and traditional townhouses, has risen 40% in the last year, $1.25 million, $887,000. The new detached home averaged $1.72 million the last month, up 9% since May. So what have I been telling you guys? In all these articles I've been doing for you guys, reading, or not even reading, my predictions right here. Where is it? First one from the top. Trends in the housing market. I mentioned it in this one. I mentioned it in the one before. I mentioned it in almost every trends in the housing market. I still remember talking about this, how people will start jumping on the cheaper condos, and that's what's going to happen. It's mainly investors. It's not your typical, let's buy our home because we need a place to live. No, it's not one of those. It's, let's get into this market. And that's exactly what happened in Vancouver. So let's move on. City of Vancouver has released a 10-year housing target that shifts its housing strategy towards renters, low to moderate income earners, and families. On Tuesday, the city announced a plan to add 72,000 new housing units over the next decade with an eye not just forward boosting rental supply, but ensuring the supply is the right supply, affordable residence. Okay, I want to add something here to this. And the reason why I'm reading this article is because where are they going to put 72,000 new housing units? If you look at Vancouver skyline, it's packed. There's no room. Okay. You go to Upper Vancouver, you go to Midtown, like Midtown up to commercial area, and then you go to Uptown, up by Renfrew, and Renfrew and First, and Renfrew and area there. You're going to notice, and Broadway, you're going to notice there's just no room. So to put down 72,000 new housing units, I see that as being somewhat of a problem. The city was only designed, I think, for 400,000 people because it's very narrow streets, very narrow streets. Infrastructure's old. I'm just saying it how it is. And to be very frank with you, I can't see them adding 72,000 new housing units. I can't see it. I'm sorry. I cannot see that. And I want to know what you guys think. So it says here, about 2/3 of the 72,000 units will be rentals, including 20,000 purpose-built market rental units, which is quadrupled the city's previous target since 2012. So I want to know what you guys think about that, adding 72,000 units in a city that has no... I'll show you here. But people are watching this that are not from Vancouver are probably saying, hey, Mike, what the hell are you talking about? There's always lots of land. Canada's big. No, well, when you got the mountains behind you and nowhere to build, and you got the ocean to the west of you, right? And then east of you, you got other bordering cities that are already jam-packed. You don't have much more places or location to build. And when you're in a city like this, it's very, 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 very hard to... Is that... Kind of looks like it's Vancouver. I'm not too sure. There it is there. So building back here, good luck. Building to the east, it's already jammed. Going uptown and midtown, forget it. It's not going to happen. So nobody... 72,000 units, I don't see that happening. And see what's going on with that, because it's actually creating a problem, putting 72,000 more units with the congestion, the traffic. You ask people who drive in Vancouver, who likes to drive in Vancouver, and they'll tell you straight up. So if someone's commenting here, you should create incentives for employees to allow work from home or move outside the city limits. Yeah, that's definitely like something that's happening a lot. Everything's becoming technologically advanced, and people could do this kind of stuff from home. Most of the work could be done from home because most of the work that's going through now is clerical. So let's move on. Let's move ahead. So I want to touch on this article here. Sorry about that. I had to wet my beak a bit here. Toronto one-bedroom rental sees prices jump 17%. Toronto sees rental prices rapidly increasing according to TREEP, especially when compared to historical increases. Soaring Toronto real estate prices are hitting the rental market. Numbers from the Toronto Real Estate Board show that the second quarter of 2017 saw a massive increase in price from the same time last year. Listings are falling faster than demand. There was an increased demand for rental units across Toronto in the second quarter. TREEP stats show that 8,553 rental leases were signed, a slight decrease from 0.1 from the same quarter last year. The number of listings fell 11,890, a decline of 3.1% during the same period. That means that 72% of inventory was absorbed, slightly higher than 69% absorbed. So... prices, however, the average price of a one-bedroom lease signed came in at $1,910. So if you're watching this in the United States of America, that's $1,500 US, pretty much, or $1,450 US for a one-bedroom condo, a 17% increase from the same time last year. And if you're watching this down in South Florida, Toronto gets like 3 feet of snow every snowfall, so... Bachelor units rose the average lease price of $1,588. That's a bachelor. That's a room. 15% increase from the same time last year. That's a touch over the consumer price index for inflation, which only came in at 1% last month. Much higher than the year before. Of course. Look at that. Boom. Look at that. Rental prices have stalled for the past few years, but such a quick rise is interesting. Were landlord expectations set by soaring real estate prices, are new landlords buying secondary units and passing on the rapid rise in prices to tenants? Ding, ding, ding. Finally, we got a winner here. We have a winner. Or wants to just delay the increases of landlords have previously held back. We'll crunch some more data and see what we could find out. It's really good, Better Dwelling. They got some incredibly good articles that you should read up on. Really good, fastest growing housing blog. Sorry guys, I'm half asleep right now, but I'm awake. I'm happy doing this tonight for you guys. Broadcasting out of Merritt, BC, 27th of July, 2017. If those of you that are just tuning into the transmission, people listening. And I want to thank the people down in Australia for clipping a lot of my shows and rebroadcasting it on the news and discussing some of my points of views, because a lot of them have played out to a T. Let's continue here. And I wanted to go on to this article because it trails off the other article. Evictions across Ontario are on the rise, and not for late payments. We crunched the numbers, applications filed with the province of Ontario, and find out more landlords are applying to evict tenants. Really? If you got someone in there that's bad tenants or a rush to cash to higher rents, data analysis were constructed on applicants' files for the province of Ontario show that the number of landlords applying to have tenants evicted are on the rise. Interesting enough, most of the growth in applications are not evictions for non-payments. They're concentrated in areas where rents have been rising the most. Applications for tenant eviction from landlord across Ontario are growing. The province saw 4,893 applications, a 1.76% increase from the same time last month. From the same time last year, Toronto saw 1,323 of those applicants, which is actually 2.93% decline from the same time last year. Let's break down those numbers to find out why landlords have been applying to evict tenants. Look at that. Holy smokes. So they're evicting tenants. More people are paying their rent on time. The number of L1 applicants received in the province is down. An L1 application is an applicant to evict tenant for non-payment and to collect owned rent. In June, the province saw 3,875. L1 applicants are 0.548% increase from the same time last month. So many people across the province are paying their bills on time. That's not the problem. Breaking down for the city of Toronto, the same trend applies. The province received 1,047 L1 applications in Toronto. 2.69% decline from the same month last year. If you're not a tenant, soaring prices are pretty good motivator to get your payments in on time. So they're evicting tenants, 11.37% increase from last year, because they're looking to raise the rent and get other tenants in. So that is scary, that we're basically slaves to the dollar. What do you tell your tenant? I know you've been with me for 10 years, and I hate to raise the rent on you by $700 a month because I know you can't pay it, because I know you're on some sort of assistance. So I'll do the next best thing for you. I'll evict you, and I'll get somebody else in to pay that rent. And then this way, I don't feel bad asking you for more money that I know you can't pay. So where is the humanity? I mean, where's it going? Where is people being humble? Where are people caring about one another anymore? And it's all the almighty dollar. And the funny part is, and you don't take it with you when you die. I can understand is like every $1,000 you have gets you X amount of money in the afterlife or X amount of credits in the afterlife. It doesn't work like that. I promise you it doesn't. And now I don't know where it's going and why it's going this way, but the level of greed, you know? Yeah, so someone's commenting here. Landlords say they're renovating or selling, but really getting a new higher rent tenant a couple of months later. And that's what it is. They're pretending to make it seem like, You know what I'm saying? That, oh, yeah, we're not going to, and it's sad. It's really sad the way things are headed with this. Let's continue here. Canada. OSFI looks to further tighten mortgage underwriting standards, issues revised guideline B20 for comment. So, remember I've been talking about this for the last 3 years or 4 years, how underwriters are allowing certain crap on the books, and underwritings are approving deals when they know it's absolute garbage and they know the deal's going to fall apart. Underwriter looks at a deal and can tell right away, hey, oh my God, this guy's living off credit. Hey, wait a minute, this guy can't afford to make these payments come 8 months. Underwriters are really good at that, and they're really keen, and they can pick out garbage deals. Why are these underwriters approving these garbage deals, and why are they fidgeting with the numbers, with TDS, with the total debt service ratio, and they're having people basically not helping people? Let us get you into this product, sir. I'm going to do my best. And the lender's like, I'll do my best to get this approved with our underwriters. They fidget the TDS numbers. They fidget a few other things. And guess what? It's the customer or the owner or whoever's taking the loan or the product from the institution that has to pay in the long run. That has to pay dearly in the long run. So the Office of Superintendent Financial Institution issued a revised version of the Guideline B20 Residential Mortgaging Underwriting Practices and Procedures. For comment, the draft guideline comes as OSFI issued a letter to the industry on July 7, 2016, highlighting its concerns with residential mortgage underwriting practices and the adequacy of risk management controls implemented by residential mortgage originators. The letter indicated that OSFI would be reviewing Guideline B20 to ensure it is aligned with prudent industry practice and Canadian housing market realities. Realities. The draft guideline is the product. So what's happening is, why didn't they do this 10 years ago? Heck, why didn't they do this from the beginning? Why were they doing this? Why were they putting garbage on the books, and they know they're going to fail, and allowing this? You know what I'm saying? Someone's commenting from Australia. Aussie investors use a tax deduction called negative gearing, and they also get a discount for capital gains tax when they sell the property, so it's a win-win for investors. Yeah, down in Australia is a big mess. I'm going to get to some Australian articles here later on in the show. But right now, why didn't they put this in place when they know if the product is no good for the customer? Why are they... Who the hell... Like, where are these underwriters getting this? Like, oh, let's approve this deal. I know it's going to fail in 6 months, but we're going to get his down payment, his money, and his house, and he still has to pay the debt. That's like a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win for the bank. I don't know if you guys see that. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to what's actually really happening. So yeah, oh, hallelujah. They're going to start to revise the guidelines for underwriting. God bless you. God bless everybody. This is fantastic, but you should have done it 10 years ago. Let's move on. So this one was sent to me by the Seattle Times. So people in Seattle, they're watching the show. They're watching my show, and they're very happy that I'm mentioning Seattle, mentioning what's been happening in Seattle. Watch previous shows that I have done about Seattle, because it's a big deal. South of the border from Vancouver, 2-hour drive, you got Seattle. Are Seattle housing prices headed for a crash? So let's do this. The last time we saw a price increase like this, it was followed by the real estate crash, but there are important differences between now and then. Stein's Law, named after the economist Herb Stein, who coined it, posits that if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. Which brings us to housing prices in Seattle metropolitan area. As my colleague Mike Rosenberg reported, prices shot up 13.3% in May versus the same month a year ago. It was far beyond 5.6% of the home price index for 20 large metro areas and continued Seattle's #1 ranking for the 9th straight month. Not only that, it happened despite less interest here from foreign investors. So, it's a nice long article, and it goes for here. Seattle's law will kick in at some point. Prices may even fall modestly, then will keep rising again. This has been a cycle for the top West Coast markets for a decade. So Seattle pricing has gone up, pretty much doubled in the last, since Vancouver put on that foreign buyers tax. Boom! Seattle was flying in investors on planes, making pamphlets and guide to Seattle in foreign languages, bringing them in, paying for their hotels, getting to buy 12, 13, 14 properties. And is it heading for a crash? No. Seattleans, or people down in Seattle that are watching this, and people from Tacoma and all those other places. I've been asked many times, do I see a crash happening in Seattle? Not anytime soon. Not even close. And I'll tell you why. It's because none of the people, elected officials, are putting in taxes and vacant taxes, and none of them are looking at that right now. And you know what I'm saying? And this part here, I kind of want to read this to you. Nationally, subprime has largely been extinguished, and Wall Street has gone on another rackets or lines of businesses. It's all a Ponzi scheme, and everybody knows free money. What's that? Max Kaiser says it all the time. Free money, interest is nothing. Who's going to clean up the mess? It's the working poor that's going to clean up the mess. And do I see Seattle and Portland on the horizon for a crash? I don't, guys. I'm sorry. Unless your parliament comes in and starts putting in measures to protect the Washington proper or the American proper from being bought out of the market like people were in Vancouver, then I don't see it happening, guys. I'm sorry. Now, can California solve its housing crisis? Now, if this goes into what I've been talking about with you guys forever. Do you remember the brain drain? I kept talking about Vancouver brain drain. All doctors, plastic surgeons, reporters, people of scientists, anybody that actually has a very important job. They can't live in those cities anymore. They can't live. People with a 6-figure income cannot live in Vancouver, so they left. People living in Sydney, people living in other cities, major cities, they're realizing what's happening. You know what I'm saying? And they're leaving these big cities, and they can't afford to leave in these big cities, and there's this massive brain drain. Now, let me read this little beginning piece to you here. So, Watson Estates is coming late night here in Toronto, but couldn't miss put up saying hi. Thanks for the shout out and keep it up. No problem. Don't forget to join Watson Estates on his perspective on making wealth in the economy right now in the housing market. And someone says the answer is no. Somebody commented here, probably on one of these things. Mind you, I think I'm 1 minute behind from what I'm watching here, from what you guys are seeing, so nobody freak out. So let's go into this. Tech industry janitors and cafeteria workers protest wage inequality and the housing crisis in the middle of Mission Boulevard on Wednesday afternoon, April 27, 2016, in Santa Clara, California. 10 people were peacefully arrested. How do you get peacefully arrested? Peacefully arrested during the rally. It's like Buddy dies of an accidental drug overdose. You're not supposed to be doing drugs. Anyways, you see where I'm going here? Brain drain. Now, who's going to clean up the mess for all these tech workers that could barely afford to live in those cities already because of the growing prices and the cost of living going up? And Steve the plumber, one of our commenters, just came on board. Having checked gas taxes and the cap... Okay, for those living in California, this is gas tax. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. A lot of people are really teed off at this in Southern California. and Santa Clara areas and Santa Clarita and all those places, Orange County, they're really teed off right now about this new gas tax that was introduced. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that right now. I might do that on Rants and Lifestyle show. Having checked out the agenda, California political leaders will turn to the state's housing crisis after a month-long midsummer vacation. It's high time because California is building barely enough new housing to handle its current population growth and making no dent in years of the backlog. Can I tell you what I feel about this, guys? That's a lie. That's one big ball of wax lie. And I'm going to tell you why that's a lie. Because California is seeing one of the biggest exoduses in the history of California. More people are leaving the state of California than any other state. California has this mass exodus of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people leaving per day. California is seeing a mass exodus. You know why they have to build more homes and why there's no more, why there's a shortage in homes? Because they're all empty. A majority of the condos, homes are empty. I see California fudging its numbers. Of course, they're fudging their numbers because a lot of the political presence there are padding their pockets with investor money. I see a lot of empty homes in the state of California. I'm seeing anywhere from 450,000 empty homes in the state of California, maybe more. And that's what I've been forecasting from what the trends I've been seeing. This is a lie. There's not more people moving to California. People are leaving California faster than you could ever imagine. My friend's got a channel, Anthony channel, Walking Journey. He talks about how he left California and how everyone's leaving California in droves. Anyways, so I wanted to bring up this article just so you guys could see. It's happening in Vancouver too, Melbourne, London. Who's going to work the cafeteria, the clean, the jobs that are a necessity. The infrastructure is a necessity to keep the pillars of society going and structured properly. There you go. Walking Journey just logged in, and I was just talking about him. Anthony, in the comment section, can you do me a favor, bud? Can you comment below and tell people how many people are leaving California? Because this article is a lie, and I'm going to dump it right now. And I call bull crap on that one. That's pure bull. I'm going to take a sip. Some lemon water. Again. Hey, what's happening in London? Bloated London property prices fueling exodus from capital. Everyone's leaving the capital. I don't think I've seen. This is a huge exodus of people. Brain drain. 6-figure income. Can't. Okay, so Walking Journey is commenting on the California exodus. His understanding is 100,000 at a time in a month. I've heard there's been anywhere from 17 to 100,000 in some days that are leaving California. Going north to Seattle, going north to Oregon. Some people heading east to Texas. Quite a bit are actually going to Texas. Now, everyone's leaving the capital, London. Everybody wants to live in London. Come on, it's the capital of the English language. But everyone wants to leave if they can't afford and they're working 3 jobs to pay rent. Look what happens. Bloated London property prices fueling exodus from capital. London is experiencing a net loss of migration every age group apart from people in their 20s, according to official statistics. It's the brain drain. The most likely destination for people over 25 moving from Islington Street to Albans, Hertfordshire, where the average home was £173,000 cheaper. Of course. Nobody wants to work for a house. Even if you're in London, you don't want to work your entire life to pay off a house. Do you know what the word, I said this in a few shows ago. Do you know what the word mortgage means in the French language? Mortgage means death grip. That's what it means. It's a death grip. The most likely destination for people. So that's it. In Kent's seaside town of Whistlebull, long-term residents call them DFLs, people who have moved down from London. DFL. That's perfect. Moved down from London. Sometimes for their lifestyle, but more often cheaper housing. Thank you. Leave the city. Leave one of the English-speaking capital of the world. London. Leaving. Anyways, Clayton's checking in here. So, it's really good. So, the brain drain's happening in London too. Everything I've been forecasting for the last 4 years is all coming into play, and my sinister plot to take over the world is working. No, it's not. But anyways, the number of people fleeing the capital to live elsewhere is at a 5-year high. In the year to June 2016, the outward migration from London reached 93,000 people, more than 80% higher than 5 years earlier, according to the analysis of official statistics. A common theme among the leavers destinations is significantly cheaper housing, according to the estate agent Savilis, which analyzed figures from the Office for National Statistics and Land Registry. So, people, I'm telling you, the phenomena is being driven by a widespread of desire trade up and housing ladder, something that is all too often impossible in London, according to the Lucian Cook, Savills head of residential research. 5 years ago, people would have been reluctant to move out because the economy wasn't as strong, and some owners didn't want to miss out on housing price growth in London, he said. But with increased employment and opportunities outside of London, why? Because the companies can't hire people that qualify to work that are local. So people have to drive 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours away to, believe me, take train rides for 2 hours to come into work. So what they're saying is, let's move out of the city. We could hire people that qualify, and then we could hire people to do the job. The problem is with the private institution, a private hiring, like me, I hire people, same thing. I want to hire someone that's qualified, right? Unless the public sector or the private sector, where it's the government jobs, they need to fill seats and they need to equal hiring and stuff. That's great. But the problem is, if the person doesn't qualify and you're paying through the nose to keep, to have them working there just to make the company look good, you're taking a loss. You need to hire qualified people. I don't care what age, race, color, breed, greed, whatever, creed, or whatever they are. Qualified workers, and that's what employers are looking for. So they're leaving the city and taking it into their own hands and hiring the proper, because people are complaining, I'm not taking this job because I'm not driving 2 hours to come into work. And I don't blame them. Once again, look at that. Can you believe people exodusing from London? Again, UBS, CNBC, which is fake news, by the way, so I'm not too sure how real this is going to be. I try to keep my show as real as possible. Okay, so there's too much contradictory information about the Toronto mess. Yes, Steve the Plumber is, Manzella is saying. Now, Mia is commenting here. It's really important that you listen to this comment. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but there are people in Silicon Valley living out of cars, vans, taking 5-hour train rides to job. They're all looking to leave Cali. Okay, in one of my housing crisis videos, I discussed that, and I left a link to that documentary that she's talking about. And it's tough. Oh, it's tough. People having to really go out of their way to clean up somebody else's mess and then have to go back home and take care of their own mess. It's a nightmare. And Walking Journey is commenting that a lot of this is fake news, but let's give this article a chance, peeps. I want to see what these guys are saying here. Australian housing market at the risk of crash, according to UBS research. Australian housing activity surprising on the downside. RBA, hawkish statement poses risk to prices. House growth currently around 5 times higher than income growth. Okay. House price 5 times higher than income growth. Let me tell you guys something about this. Let me tell you about something. And it's the same thing that the Australian news clipped from my videos, that they're taking from my videos, which I don't care, and I want to get my message out. The Australian news took that when I was talking about how could people live when the housing prices are 5 times higher than their income, or growing 5 times higher than their income. Sydney and Melbourne, mark my words, nothing's being done to cool the market. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The Australian proper is going to have to move out of those cities. And they're just going to bring in more wealthy investors. And it's just going to become a playground for the rich. That's it. That's how it works. It's going to be these gigantic cities for the rich and wealthy. And you give it another 20 years down the road, and people will probably be looking at these videos saying, holy crap, they're going to be having borders into cities. Like a border. You're in the same country, but they want to know what your business is in the city. Why are you coming to the city for? Why are you visiting here? What's your business? You know what I'm saying? Watch. Now, that's the only way. And then now, because of what's been happening, a lot of the Australian housing markets and what that, they've been watching my show very closely, because they've been saying, and someone commented, someone wrote a long comment, and they wrote me an email, and they told me, Mike, I'm going to be very frank with you. I was astonished, and he said, amazed at your knowledge of the housing market and how the trend is working. And yeah, it's baffling. They're baffled by, they tune in, they watch, they analyze, they take notes. I can't even read, and they're taking notes of what I'm saying. You're going to see what's going to happen. I don't want this to happen. Vancouver has become like that. I left Vancouver. I took my down payment I had. I bought my house that I'm in free and clear. I just took the down payment. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put this money down, and I'm still going to owe $1.5 million, and the house is only 3-bedroom. So I moved here. I bought an 11-bedroom or 10-bedroom, 3 living rooms, 2 kitchens, 7 bathrooms, whatever you want to see it as. And I paid $260 for it. And that's my Living the Dream series. I'm not bragging. I'm trying to tell you guys there's life outside the city. I even opened a shop here. I love it. I'm doing so well. Why? Because I'm thinking outside the city. And so this is it. This is what's happening, and that's what's happening. And the Australian press is kind of taking that and running with what I'm saying. And a lot of them are even having these articles headlining, is Melbourne and Sydney becoming a playground for the rich only? And they were mentioning me and what I was saying, which is really nice. I really like that, and I feel humble about that. Let's move on. And for the people living down in Sydney, Sydney house prices jump again, but days of double-digit growth are over. I hope so. Double-digit growth. Sydney's property market soared to new heights, with the median house price now $1.1 million. Data released on Thursday shows. But surprisingly, unit prices grew at twice the pace over the June quarter, suggesting supply is still yet to catch up with demand. Sydney apartment prices jumped 3.2% over the past 3 months to 757,000. While houses grew more than a modest 1.6% to 1.178 million. The latest Domain State of Market report shows. So we've got units popping up like mushrooms. I expected this would become more of a dampener on prices. Well, it hasn't, okay? Look at this. Woo! Look at the house prices. Woo! The sound effects there, eh? You like them, eh? Look at this. Look at that. It's crazy. Let's see the rent. Oof. Oh, it's jumping. $500, $500, $300 increase. Wow. Let's move on. So, why is this happening? A lot of people asked. A lot of people are asking me. So people are asking me again, once again, what do I think about New Zealand? And New Zealand right now, from what I've been being told from people on the ground, are telling me that no one's showing up to the auctions anymore. New Zealand right now is somewhat in a crash. It's plateauing. It's not going down. It's not going up. They're seeing houses on the market longer than usual. And New Zealand right now is suffering. So Clayton Campbell, who's down under, is telling me New Zealand is not good. I got an article here that's got a cross-reference just what he said. Auckland's high cost of living means there is little dignity for beneficiaries and low-income residents. So we're talking about people who fought in wars, people that built the infrastructure that they cannot live in, people that built the roads, people that actually slaved, worked, put their children through school, and now can't even afford to live in their own house that they built. That's how bad it is. Trying to make ends meet in Auckland. Auckland's spiraling housing and transport costs is putting beneficiaries and low-income residents at risk, advocates say. Auckland Action Against Poverty coordinated Vanessa Cole said that the benefit did not allow a dignified life in Auckland. Often a beneficiary family was forced to choose between putting food on the table or paying for things like emergency doctor visits. Auckland Action Against Poverty is an advocacy group which works to help beneficiaries and those struggling in Auckland. Many were not able to eat healthy or gain employment because of the transport issues. Many suffered ill health through winter in damp houses with no heating. Remember I told you Southern Hemisphere? It's really cold there right now. It's been a record cold right now in New Zealand, Australia. They're South Africa. They're facing a really, really record cold winter. So the state of welfare beneficiaries coming off quicker, costing more. 2016 Future of Welfare. So these are other articles to read. So it's getting really hard. There's a lot of... a student, 21, says students suffering severe hardship in Auckland and need better help than StudyLink provides. So this is affecting everyone in a very broad spectrum, you know. So it's you know, okay, so somebody's commenting, taxi drivers can't afford to live there. How does anyone get a cab? I know some taxi drivers that drive in to Vancouver and they live like 50 minutes away. I met one taxi driver in Vancouver that lives in Chilliwack. And he drives in every day, like 40 minutes to 1 hour every day into Vancouver to drive his taxi. So, you know, or Uber, yeah. Someone commented Uber. Anyways, so if you guys are looking to see some Uber stories, there's this guy on Network 126 named Brian Fritz, and he's driving Uber and he's documenting his what's happening with him driving Uber. It's a really good series to watch. So the people basically that built the country, the people that slaved to put the country in perspective that it is today, are the ones that are suffering to live in it. It's really bad. You know what I'm saying? It's really, 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 really sad to see war vets and people that basically, and the forefathers and the people who made the country what it is today basically have to suffer. So Clayton's commenting says, I live 12 kilometers from Auckland City. Takes me 1.5 hours on bus, 25 minutes on motorbike. So it would take you, what, an hour to walk, maybe? 12 kilometers? Maybe less, right? Wow. Yep, so Steve the Plumber's commenting too on the comment section. Don't forget to join me every Wednesday night. You could comment live here. And for those listening to this on Rewind, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to this Trends in the Housing Market. It means a lot to me for tuning in. Steve the Plumber saying, some people in Toronto are actually now in negative equity position already. Yes, people are underwater. So right now, gasoline in New Zealand is about $2 per liter. And mind you guys, New Zealand's a small island chain that's... where is it? It's southeast of Australia, right? Southeast of, I think, is it? Yeah, I think it's southeast of Australia. Island chain down there. And they're in a heap of trouble in the southern hemisphere with the cold weather and the damp homes. And if anyone wants to comment on the meth... Oh, yeah, that's next to Mordor, where they film Lord of the Rings. By the way, anyways, okay... Hear me out. Meth homes. People living in New Zealand have to do meth tests on houses because meth contamination. It's crazy. It's like the housing market is its own. Like, it's so big, I could do a show every week and have new content. And then now Clayton is commenting again from New Zealand. Meth is a big problem. It's a huge problem. Let's move on. This is from New Zealand. Housing price boom over for now. So what are they going to do? They're going to have another part called Return of the Price Boom, or the housing prices rise, strike back, or Return of the House Price Boom. I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not. House price boom over for now in New Zealand. So people living in New Zealand, guys, take a sigh of relief, a breath of relief. This is from 8 hours ago. The Auckland housing market, Rubik's Cube, that will remain unaffordable for most until there is a coordinated effort to fix it, according to one expert. Since the 2014 election, prices of the biggest city have gone up on average $250,000 4 times. The national average capital gain of $65,000. Oh, I got a fly on my head. A gain of $65,000. So imagine all these people riding off the coattails since 2014, off the equity off their homes, partying. Oh, I'm gonna take 2 years off work because my house went up $250,000 4 times. That's phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? Housing capital gains are soaring in New Zealand. Leighton Furman, who's worked in the property industry for decades and set up a New Zealand's first real estate website, says no price crash is in sight. Housing has always followed a secular round nature, and what we're seeing at the moment is perhaps the end of, or perhaps getting towards the end of the latest cycle. She told the AM show on Thursday. Oh my God, she told us to the AM show on Thursday. That means it's got to be right. So let's keep reading. When you look back in the past, the markets turn usually because of some global event. Last time it was a global financial crisis, and that impacts the property market. So we do think at some point that will happen. Are they just maybe massaging people into a crash? Like, it's going to crash, but let's massage these people so we could kind of say, look, I told you. A lot of people commenting. Those $250,000 houses won't be nice, that's for sure. Yeah, $250 increase in value in 2 years. It's not $250,000 house. Oh, yeah, my bad. Okay, so everyone's commenting. Everyone's getting together there on the comment section. Thank you very much. And what we typically see when the market turns, the market does soften. You see, sometimes that prices might go down slightly. But doesn't that down slightly put fear in the market and people start panicking and everyone starts to sell? But we haven't seen great crashes. What you see is people who own a house just hunker down. If they don't have to sell, they just hunker down. Very bad. Housing prices. Looks like the boom is over. So, going over everything that I discussed here from east to west. Vancouver, condo still going up in price. Seattle, trend still going up. Tacoma. London is stagnant. Toronto is stagnant in the housing market, but condo market's going up. Like I said, watch this video from the beginning, and I've been saying this for a long time. Everyone's going to jump on the cheaper units. They're going to start investing in cheaper units, and they're going to be moving up. California sees no end in sight and trying to fix their housing problem because they're not putting any measures into place that will make the difference. London is becoming stagnant with a mass exodus of people, so is California. And you got, right now, Sydney and Melbourne in Australia with no end in sight, with anything on the horizon of any crash or any correction. And now New Zealand is stagnant right now, and that's an overview of everything I talked about. But why are more people looking for a crash? Why are more people looking for a correction? It's because the younger people from 5-10 years ago are getting to the age where they want to start to own, or millennials, whatever you want to call them, want to own. I couldn't own. I'm 40. I was living in Vancouver, saving for 10 years. It's like, man, I can't even buy a house. I still have to owe $1 million after I put a down payment. But like I said, I left the city. I knew the city was a lie. I knew the city is a conspiracy to think that you have to be part of a bigger agenda to make it in life. Do you really need to see 30,000 people a day walk by you? What difference does that make in your life? How does that pay your phone bill? If anything, you have more people trying to get your job than anywhere else. In this small town where I'm in the city of Merritt, there's help wanted signs everywhere. Everywhere. Help wanted signs. Different levels of work. Clerical, gas station work, sales, mill work, mining, whatever. There's lots of jobs available. Because people aren't fighting over the jobs. So being part of a big grand scale, I've come to grips that this whole city life might have been good in the 60s, 70s, maybe early 80s. You know what I'm saying? In the 60s, the place to be was New York. If you're in the 1960s, New York was a great place to be. In the 70s, Chicago was a great city to live in. In the 80s, it was Los Angeles. California was the place to be, the city to be. And then in the 90s, it was Florida. In the 2000s, it was Georgia. And then now, you don't feel that vibe from cities anymore. Like, you don't feel that anymore. Because everyone's leaving the cities. Because and there's a lot of people commenting. A lot of people visiting me at my store and saying, Mike, I watch your show. I love it. I bought a house in Penticton. I bought a house in, I think it was Logan Lake. Some guy bought a house in some island on the west part of Nanaimo or something. Somebody else bought a house in, where was the other one? Someone bought here in Merritt. Then someone else bought in Kamloops. And people are saying, living the dream, less income, more disposable income, less overhead. You know, and I really hope they could create some sort of correction, a crash, some sort of a balance to get this fixed. Because the cities are gonna be dry of talent, youth, just families. People want families. People don't want to wait to be 40, 50 to have families anymore. I said, you know what, I gotta have my family. Like you see my son at the beginning of the show. I needed to find some sort of. I needed to make headway. You know. And you know what? There is, but you gotta look outside the city. And if you're watching this, a lot of people that own companies and stuff, like company owners, believe it or not, watch this show. You know what? If you're thinking to move your company out to the outskirts of town or maybe 40 minutes out of town, you're doing good for your employees, because then this will give them a less commute to come to work. They'll be more fresh at work. They don't have to worry about making a certain train or a certain deadline to be home to make dinner. It would just create more revenue for your employees, more pocket money, and they'll want less raises because they have more disposable income. Anyways, your comments and everything are welcome below. I'll put this on replay tomorrow. I really want to thank everyone. Wow, there's a lot of people here commenting. That's really nice. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching. Scroll to the beginning of the show if you missed the beginning. It was really good. I had some really good points I was making there and some predictions that I made. Thanks for watching. Big hug to everyone. It's been an hour and 1 minute, and I'm tired, people. I'm going to go home and sleep. I'm going to go upstairs and sleep, sorry. And I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to see if I could do a rants and lifestyle talking about outside of housing market and things that are happening in the world that's affecting everybody. Big hug. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, get this video out there, and get people talking about this. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.